You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 313, and I'm Clark from 5cardguys.com. And you can also find me at 5cardguys on Instagram, YouTube, and on Facebook. Co-hosting with me as usual is Hyung, who is at Cho Hyung on Instagram and YouTube. And John, he's away for the month of August, so hopefully he'll be back next month. All right, let's get right into it. Off the top, this news we could have probably done a hobby headlines segment on, but I want to talk about the sale of the $12.9 million MJ Kobe dual logoman auto 1/1, like everyone else in the hobby already has. But more in particular, I want to focus on what Kevin O'Leary's been saying, who's one of the three buyers. Just some of the quotes he's been talking about regarding the sale of the $12.9 million. But before we get into that, like I said, off the top, the news I thought that was also really interesting is Nat Turner, the CEO of Collectors, which owns PSA, announced recently that PSA has officially graded 1 million cards that currently reside in the PSA vault. And he adds there are hundreds of thousands more being graded, which are heading to the vault directly after the grading is completed. So my question for you, Hyung, is first, are you surprised at that number of how many cards are actually being vaulted? And do you think this is how more collectors will be collecting in the future, right? Or is this just a fad, where once the sports card market slows down again, people won't be interested in vaulting anymore? What do you think?
It's definitely not a fad, I'll tell you that, because you just look at, remember, it can't exist unless there's value behind it. It can't grow unless there's value behind it. So I look at this whole, vaulting, and like I said, as an old school collector, even a month ago or 2 months ago, I would probably say it's not for me. But the more I dig deeper into it, it's a no-brainer for, especially if you're on a turnaround time of buying and selling, where it's not like you're keeping these grails that you're buying. You're someone who, vaults or sells maybe after a year or 2 years. I think it brings enormous value for that particular person, because if you look at it from the foundational elements, you're saving so much time, money, and headaches of dealing with the logistical parts of, transactional hobby, which a lot of people don't want to be an eBay store. They don't want to be a dealer. And when I say eBay store, obviously you're still selling. There's still a selling element to it that you have to sell, but or you could actually auction it off or use their selling services. But regardless, it's one, taxes. So if I'm vaulting at PSA, I don't have to pay sales tax, which is huge. I don't have to take pictures and list it. I don't have to do all those things where it takes a lot of effort. And the best of it is that it's all on my phone. You know what I mean? So it's like, what do we do as hobbyists when we get cards? We hold it, we take pictures, and then it's on our phone, and then we would store it, right? And then we would sell it. So it's essentially doing the same thing without the hassle and headaches of, I got to worry about theft on my side. I got to worry about storage. I got to worry about, sales taxes, import, whatever, especially from a Canadian side. If I'm sending cards, getting it graded, and I could do it all in one, there's enormous value, let's say. But it also, makes me kind of scratch my head and wonder, it's like, hey, there's an element of digital trading here. Because if you do participate in this, there's not really any physical tangibility of, oh, I have this card and, you know, I get to hold it. But you have it in your phone and essentially you're never going to touch it. So it makes me kind of extrapolate, I guess, on that side of things, the digital side of things, and the potential it has, because we're already doing it. We don't even know we're doing it though, right? So
no, I agree with you 100%, and everything I'm going to say is repeating some of your main points. But regarding that digital, you know, asset, really, and you know, you could say NFTs, but digital asset. The one thing I think is still psychological, right? Because even though it's on your phone, like you're mentioning, we know in the back of our minds that there's still a physical asset component to it.
Right.
So we have it somewhere, whether it's stored or whether it's in a vault even. But with NFTs or purely digital assets, that physical component doesn't exist. So I wonder if it takes a little more time to get over that. But essentially, we're doing the same thing. I agree with you.
But I think that's why there needs to be utility on the digital side of things, right? Whether if it's not physical, there has to be utility, and that's where the value, I think, retains. And then, like I said, you could go A to Z on that. That could mean anything. So we don't know, but that would be the concept. Yes.
Yeah. You know what? We'll do a whole separate episode on that, because we could go into a rabbit hole for sure. Because I got so many ideas on that. But going back to the whole vaulting subject, I agree. I think it's just a bullish sign for the hobby, because as the hobby grows, the more value more cards will have in general. You know, not all cards will have value, but as the hobby grows, there'll be more demand. So the assumption here is, or the projection is, that there will be more cards in volume that will have value, because, you know, there's that increased demand. You're going to say something? Yeah.
And I think just adding to that, newcomers into the hobby, especially with the lens of, I guess, investor perspective. So we're talking, you mentioned Kevin O'Leary before. To them, this is all new. They don't know how the hobby was or what it was before. This is great for the incoming people, because to me, it's just more security. If I'm an outside investor coming into this space and I'm like, I don't know nothing about it, and then I learn that there's a vaulting service and the old way of doing things, I'd laugh at it. I'd be like, why would I do this?
Right.
This is so much safer. Yeah. So for me, like it's kind of like, do I agree with their perspective? Maybe not. Maybe I prefer, to do the traditional way. But like I said, the market doesn't care about, how one does things. It kind of dictates what, is valuable at the end of the day. So for me, it's that aspect that is bringing a new ways of doing things for the better to a totally new audience.
Sure. But you know what I'm realizing more and more is that certainly when it comes to vaulting, that it's not either or, it's becoming both and, right? So what I mean by that is, we've seen it. It's just a whole lot easier to sell from a vault where PSA does all the work in partnership with eBay. It's a couple clicks of the button, right? We've mentioned it before in past episodes. You look for a raw card on eBay. You could certainly buy that very easily with a couple clicks. Now you have the option to send directly to PSA to get it graded for $40. So you click that, it gets graded. You have the option now to vault it or to have it shipped back to you. You vault it because you don't care for the card. You're just looking to flip, right? And then you just hold it until that card goes up in value, if it does. And then you could click another button, 7-day auction on eBay. You never touch the card. And then all you have is funds into your account, right? So it's just easier to do it. And like some of those cards, I'm honestly thinking of doing that just to experiment with it.
Right.
And guess what? If you do it well, you get your profits and you increase your funds into your account. And guess what? You may want to buy that grail, or you can buy that grail now because you have extra money that you've been flipping cards that you're not interested in. And guess what? I can have that grail card shipped back to me. So that's what I mean by both end, right?
Yeah, and 100%, and this is what people are going to notice is, you mentioned it, it's profit. people are going to realize it's more profitable when you expedite the processes within when you acquire a card to when you sell it. The less you can do, the more profitable you'll be. In general, obviously the market, the player has to do what they have to do. But in general, what digs into profit that's not necessarily on the books is the time that you spent having to ship that card out, package it, worry about, doing all these things, that require time and money. So to me, when people actually realize this is where it makes so much sense, because people who are transacting at a high volume are going to realize that's the difference between potentially being at even or ahead, especially at volume, right? Because you're doing this, every day. This might be something that saves you a lot of money and overall gives you a lot more profit in the long run.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I know you certainly know this firsthand of doing business where there's volume involved. And I think people underestimate the value of time so much,
right?
And I think once you do realize that, this is vaulting, especially in the card space, is a no-brainer.
Right.
And I think more people are going to adopt it. So to the original question I asked, do I think this is a fad? I think this is totally not a fad, because I see the utility in this even moving forward and more people getting into it. So yeah.
And we won't even know the ends of it too, because, like I said, we don't even know what fractional shares are, you know what I mean? Cards are starting to become ridiculous in terms of the really high end stuff. So we don't know how all this is going to play out. It could be, non-exist, not saying it's not, there's a possibility of non-existence, but even in the future, we don't know necessarily where this is going to go. But from where it stands right now, there's a lot of value on the way it's set up. And PSA they're not dumb. They have intention. When you're dealing with hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, you're not dumb. You have people, very smart people around you and all this is intentional, because all they're doing is how, as PSA, as a company, how are we going to push the culture? How are we going to remain profitable? How do we create sustainability? So for me, these are things that they're addressing it from a problem solution standpoint, which is what every company should be focusing on. Yeah. And that way you become the industry leader on the way things are done, because you're now addressing the issues that, other people are either complaining about or other people see, but they can't do anything about it. But a brand like PSA can. So for me, it makes sense. It's very logical. It's not like, oh, you guys are always, positive or optimistic. It's like, no, man, it's like you call the play by play for what it is, and it's not dumb. There's no yes, there might be issues within it that because it's not where it needs to be, but that's not the point, right? So
that'll always be the case anyways, right? So and you deal with it as it comes. But this is kind of a similar but different note. Like, this makes me so much more bullish on PSA in terms of them as a business. Yeah. And a little bit, to be frank, a little bit worried about the other grading companies,
I was thinking, so can you send like a BGS lab or no?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's kind of similar to that. Does BGS have even a vaulting service of their own? Are they even considering it if they don't?
I think you have to if you're BGS, because if you think about it, how are you going to compete with that?
Right, that's what I mean. Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
And I can see so many more moves that PSA has now, because if you have, for example, I was just thinking about this like 5 seconds ago. You got a lot more people vaulting. You got a lot more high-end collectors vaulting, even probably some celebrities that we know of.
Right.
And guess what PSA could do? It's like, hey, Steve Aoki, for example. I know he vaults and he has cards with PSA. Maybe we could do a special collection exhibit, because we have your cards in hand. And, if you're going to stop by this city on tour, we could do a special event. And, that's something that draws more people into the hobby, and it makes it an event.
Right,
and
right.
so there's so many more moves PSA could do this because of the vaulting service.
For sure, and they have the insurance, so I'm sure
Exactly.
it's fair game. And like I said, it's valuable, and especially to those that are coming into the hobby that that have, let's just say, bigger budgets than the traditional hobbyists. And there's a lot of people coming in from MLB, NBA, a lot of celebrities. So, and this is all a good thing. If you're a collector, that just means your high-end collectibles are that much more rare and that much more desirable, right? So it creates an ecosystem, I think, and it benefits all.
And what you said, high end is probably the key word there. But that, you know what, that's a good segue because we've kind of been bleeding into the next segment. So let's just get right into it. This is Hobby Headlines. All right, so if you haven't heard already about the $12.9 million sale of the Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, exquisite dual logo man on-card autograph 1 of 1, then you're probably not in the hobby. But honestly, even if you're not in the hobby, there's a chance you still heard of the sale because Shark Tank investor and fellow Canadian Kevin O'Leary has been making the media rounds lately, talking about how he purchased the card, which is split 3 ways between Shyne, himself, and another investor. His name is Paul Warshaw. Now, everyone making hobby content has already talked about this card, but what I wanted to do for Hobby Headlines is dig into what O'Leary has been saying in recent interviews and see if we agree or disagree or have questions about what he's saying about the hobby in particular. All right. But before I do, Hyung, your general thoughts about this sale?
Oh, well, I mean, for me, it's massive. Like, is it worth that much? I don't know. But
Right.
Like I said, I think the bigger component is someone like Kevin O'Leary,
Yes.
who understands business at the highest level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having him all in on something like this, I think it's big. I think he's more strategic than anything. So I think it's great marketing for him. And that's what he's been, on, is to be relevant, in the internet space. And he's been in front of the camera, and this transaction obviously gives him a lot more eyes on him as well. But he's a guy that appreciates high-end watches. He collects high-end watches. So he's seen the marketplace within, the high-end watch space, the art, the high-end art. So he's someone who's very familiar with markets, especially the high-end marketplace. So, and then on the flip side, he's, a multi-millionaire that understands business. So I know that he's done his due diligence on what the market looked like the past 5-10 years, even the past 100 years. And he's like screaming on top of his mind. He's like, oh my God, I'm bullish on this. That's the way I see Kevin O'Leary, based on, I watched a lot of his stuff, ever since he was, Dragon's Den. He was the kind of guy that everybody didn't like, but everybody loved because he was such a, hard ass. Yeah. But that's what you get from him. He doesn't do things from just out of the blue perspective. He's doing, extreme due diligence. He's addressing the risks associated with it. And then he's following up with action. So to me, it's massive to have someone like him, in the card space, especially after you see guys like Tom Brady and, the MLB, NBA players and other athletes, celebrities within the hobby space. And now you have someone like, Mr. Wonderful come in. So I think it's massive, but it might not be massive in the sense when we just see this news. I think when we extrapolate and kind of dig deeper, it's definitely a positive.
Yeah, and you know what? It's kind of, you already answered my first question. So I'm just going to read the initial quote, but to provide some context, he mentions in one of the interviews that Michael Rubin, CEO of Fanatics, he was a guest host or guest investor on Shark Tank in one of the weeks they had the show, and O'Leary said it was Ruben that kind of told him to look into sports cards when he was the guest host. And he said this, quote, "On the set of Shark Tank, Michael Rubin, he told me I should get into the card space. I thought that was a joke. I was wrong. He was right. And now he's turned this into almost $1 billion business." End quote. So, like I said, I think you already answered this, but do you think O'Leary is an exception where he'll be just one of few wealthy investors coming into the space? Or do you think more investors with deep pockets will enter the space? Do you think this is the beginning of the next phase?
Because think if someone's looking at the data, that's what investors go off of. They look at data and they say this is a great investment. So that's the strongest sign, is that investors are coming in, because they wouldn't have if it's a bad investment. You know what I mean? So to me, it's, absolutely. That is actually the byproduct of a good business model and somewhere to invest in. It's going to attract more and more investors that see alike. And like I said, this, from a retail standpoint, like us retailers, let's call us, or hobbyists, it's very dangerous, because now everything's dictated on, money coming in. So that means there might be inflated prices here and there, right? And this is where you got to watch it. You can't follow hype necessarily, and you have to now make smarter decisions that actually have basic fundamental principles of a good investment, right? So for me, like I said, it sharpens people's buys too, and it just shows you that now the limited runs, I'm telling you, on the superstar players, the limited runs are exactly what, people are after. And we said this, before the crazy hobby hype back in 2021, 2022, we learned our lesson of, always buy rarity, always buy scarcity of higher demand, even if it's paying a little more for it. This is why, people like the Bowman Chromes, for instance, in baseball. Yeah. And the price to play is a little higher as opposed to a Topps Finest. Right. Yes. So for us, we've always been preaching it. And I've always liked numbered cards. The downside is the liquidity, but in the right card with the right player, this is what the demand, is from that level, from the high level investors that are coming in.
Yeah, and I mean, you could argue too with more, and I agree. I think there will be more wealthy investors coming in, and you already mentioned even athletes; they can be considered wealthy investors, relatively speaking, because they got money. But I think with more of those kind of investors coming in, the liquidity should also increase, because you have more buyers that can afford these more limited high-end cards. But on the other end, the general hobbyists you're mentioning, I don't know if it impacts them as much or that negatively, because we're not playing in that high-end game, right? So I think, if anything, it can help people collecting on the low to mid-end, because I think the attention that the high-end collectors bring will just generally bring more people into the hobby. And they're like, okay, yeah, I can't obviously afford $1 million card, but I can afford these $100 or $1,000 cards perhaps. You got more people coming to the hobby that way. And then, as the hobby grows, it's just more beneficial in general for you as a hobbyist. And
an example of that is, remember the Ohtani market, when the Bowman Chromes were starting to get priced out. Yeah. What we're talking about this is what's the next best buy? Right. Yes, and as a hobbyist, you're ahead of the game with this knowledge, as opposed to someone coming outside in. He thinks Bowman Chrome is the only card that, exists. Well, meanwhile, you're looking at, different options. Maybe it's Topps Finest or Bowman's Best Auto that you're like, man, the Bowman Chrome's way inflated. It's like, I rather purchase a numbered Topps Finest Auto, and you're already ahead of the game, because that Ohtani's going to be, Ohtani or whatever, and you now, commit to a numbered card, because based on what the high-end market kind of says. So for me, it will benefit, the end user, the hobbyist that knows the market, that understands cards as a collectible. Yeah. And for me, knowledge is king. Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, it's more fun. Like, honestly, I'm priced out of the Bowman Chrome Shohei Ohtani now.
Right. But you're still looking at opportunity, right?
I'm looking at Bowman's Best. Like, you're looking at other, like Lauren, and you almost have to have confidence in yourself in that sense, right? Because if you believe that this card could be the next card that could jump, then you're ahead of the game, like you were saying.
And going back to it, I think we laugh at Bowman's Best because, like, Bowman's Best, Topps Finest, they get no love. But those cards on Ohtani's, I think it proves that, hey, people are looking for autos. They're looking for on-card autos. They're looking for eye appeal cards, even though it might not have caught up with that player. So that's why I always say there's opportunity everywhere in this space because, the news or media could be saying that this is the card to get, but, following that, there could be different opportunities that, that you're able to see. Agree.
We went on a slight tangent, but there was something you said on the answer to the first question, and I was going to save this question for later, but I'll bring it in now because you mentioned how investors look at the data and they do their due diligence before making any kind of big investment. And O'Leary says this in one of the interviews, quote, "I finished the research on the last 8 years of data. Stunning," end quote. Now, the question I want to ask is, those last 8 years, would also have to include the COVID years, obviously. So Are you taking this remark with a grain of salt, or are you still all in?
No, this is, to me, it would be the typical bullish sign on any IPO. And, we see it, Bitcoin, crypto, whatever you want to say. It's like you see that initial spike and then you see the crash and then the correction. But if that trend is, headed in a positive direction where you're seeing, hey, man, this is very interesting data. I'm really bullish on this graph. It's what you see it from a business perspective. You like the trend the past 8 years in this case where, I'm sure Kevin O'Leary's seen the crazy spike in 2021, 2022. And then it was like, oh man, it's junk wax era like people thought.
Yes.
But the market disagrees, right? The market will disagree. And I guarantee you, if you track data past 8 years, 10, 15, 20, 50 years, 100 years, you're going to see that I'm very bullish.
Yeah, general growth.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. It never really went down, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think Gary Vee mentioned this on one of the interview that I had with him, is that he just sees it as a kind of I'm paraphrasing, but like he sees it almost as a new floor. You saw this COVID hype and the peak and then the crash, but then now it's recovering and it seems healthier in a sense in terms of this growth.
And I think there's bottom line fundamentals that are good resistance, and that's what you weren't getting in the previous space was support. And I think there's a lot of support now in terms of what people deem valuable. And that's what you need. You just need people agreeing that, this is a good long-term investment. And as you do that, the buying habits will now create, higher lows, right? So
yeah, agree. All right, here's the third quote really now that O'Leary said in one of the interviews, quote, "I don't know if you're watching the value of collectibles, including baseball cards and sports cards. They are one of the best performing asset classes in the world right now," end quote. And he goes on to say he is, for the first time, considering allocation in terms of a broader portfolio to collectibles, similar to how he would treat or how he would set aside a small allocation to crypto or even to gold, right? So do you agree or disagree with just generally seeing sports cards as an alternative asset class, like crypto, like gold?
And this is where I think even 5 years ago, I've been saying it, but then 5 years ago when you say it, you get laughed at or you get kind of like mocked, right? It's like, this is not a market. This is not even an investment. Even now, you say that's fine. It's like everything's an investment, whether you like it or not, right? Whether you invest your time and resources in something, right? So for me, it wasn't official marketplace because I don't think the systems were set up for that. So it was a manual version of a stock market. It was a manual version of a real estate market. Now, these guys are figuring out, like I said, they dabbled with fractional fractional shares. And this is where it becomes important, because once you get into that space and once you're able to digitize and secure the transaction through, how they're doing it even at the vault, it becomes trackable data. And to me, that's all you need, is a system that you're able to track data, because investments go off of data. So for me, it's the evolution of getting there. We're not there yet, but yes, now it's more realistic that you could consider it as an investment class. Because like I said, do you think Kevin O'Leary's taking his personal money, and when he goes to the accountant, he says, this is a hobby and I'm using personal money? No, he's going to use, investment money like he would in real estate or watches or art pieces into the collectible space. So for him, it's taxed as investments, just like his other investment class. So to me, it's like, if people are doing it, like, it is what it is. It's whether you say it's not an investment or not, it's like, that doesn't matter. People are doing it, right? And as technology increases, it's going to be a lot easier to track your investments. And like I said, if you have PSA Vault, you're doing that right now. So it's already happening.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of alluded to it already, but everyone in the hobby, we're allocating something to this hobby, and there's a monetary value to it. So we're already allocating some of our quote unquote portfolio to this hobby. But yeah, like, it's becoming a little bit more official. And I just recalled something else that O'Leary mentioned, that one of the reasons why he purchased this $12.9 million card is he kind of wants to create this new general index, where he could see how it performs over time. And he says this card's not going to be for sale for a very long time either, right? So, to your point, someone like O'Leary is already looking at an alternative asset class, and I think he's showing us with his actions that he's serious about it, right? How the most expensive card ever sold, $12.9 million. It's making a statement.
And the thing is, like, if you go into the watch market, right? People say the same thing. It's like, there's $1 million watches out there, even a $50,000 Rolex. People are like, it's insane. Like, who would buy this? It's like, a lot of people. That's why it's 50,000. And that's what people don't understand. When they come from a different perspective, it doesn't make sense. And I'm sure sports cards doesn't make sense when you're looking at it from that perspective. It's the same thing. Who in the world is buying a $500,000 AP or, whatever it is, whatever watch? But Kevin O'Leary is, and, there are things that, he sees that other people don't. So for me, it's like, how could you say that in a watch marketplace and then not see the correlation with sports cards? Yeah, you know what I mean? So
that's an interesting point, because this next quote is, I think it'll be debatable. So we'll see. Because we've been aligned so far on the previous three quotes, but here's what he says. Quote, "This asset class has a tremendous amount of funds flowing through it, but it's only to the pieces like a Jackson Pollock or Warhol you have to buy the high end," end quote. So in terms of asset class, we're talking about alternative asset class. He really is saying that it's really more the high end that matters. So what do you think?
Yeah, if you want to draw parallels to the watch market, it's like, invest $10,000 in a Rolex versus, $500 in a Gucci watch, let's just say, or $1,000. Okay. See what happens over time with both watches, and see which, 10,000 might sound crazy at the time, but I guarantee you'll outperform any, retail watch, let's just say, a branding, because there's no fundamentals with it. So it's the same thing in sports cards. It's no different. It's the high end stuff that people want, because the player has to be the foundational element. Is he a Shohei Ohtani or not? Or is he Aaron Judge or somewhat special? And then from there, it's like, well, what model are you buying of that watch? And will it hold its value because the demand is so high? Why is the demand high? You start getting into it. This is where it's no different than, even the real estate market. you could draw correlations to why someone would pay, $10 million for a piece of real estate. There's going to be some unique factor that, has value at that level, and there's a surge of demand for that. So to me, it's the same thing in any marketplace if you could draw the correlation. So there's a lot of parallels like that. So yeah, I agree. And I've learned it the hard way. You think obviously there's opportunity in maybe not the blue chip stock, right? So you always keep your eye open that you have good buying opportunities, maybe of certain players that aren't necessarily the high end market. But in general, I think we've learned that the way to go is high end, because, you don't want to be trading, $20 cards and spending all this time and work and energy doing it at that level when the game is the exact same. If you add a zero or even couple zeros, it's the same amount of work, sometimes even less. Right. So there's that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the spirit behind this quote is that the tremendous amount of funds flowing through the more high-end cards are the truly rare, unique pieces, right? And not a lot of money going to
base
the
cards.
Low mid-end cards. Yeah, I mean, there's a play.
There's a play. Yeah,
there's always a play, but you're not seeing $1 million investors doing that play. You know what I mean? So I think that's where he's coming from. But another question that this raises to me is kind of what you said too. It's what makes a card truly high end or truly unique, and what are the fundamentals behind it, right? So, at one point we could have thought the Anthony Volpe MLB debut patch was high end. There was a $150,000 bounty. So there was that manufactured,
scarcity
value, scarcity, to that card because of the bounty. But now, do you think anyone's going to be looking to pay $150,000 for Volpe?
Exactly.
I'm not knocking Volpe, but it was the hype was driving that value initially. Right?
100%. But what's the ultimate fundamental there? Is Volpe playing the way Volpe was expected to play? That's the main fundamental. Like what else is there? It's like you're almost betting on a guy's career with that purchase, right? Because you're assuming that he's going to be that player that you think he's going to be.
Yeah. So. And I mean, but the hype that was driving it too was he was one of the first MLB debut patch cards that were available, right?
Yeah,
and now we've seen many more, so it kind of diminishes that side of things. And now we're looking at the player value, like you were saying, and Volpe. You can ask any Yankees fans; they're kind of disappointed right now.
And I think going back to the debut patch, though, I think if Volpe did pan out, I think that card would have held its value. And I think that's where they did a good job with the debut patch is, what's the unique value of the debut patch? One, obviously the fundamentals is the player has to play, but then it's the player's first game jersey. It's a piece of history. So if he does become, let's just say the next Ronald Acuna Jr. or, whoever it is, the Shohei Ohtani, that's a massive, massive desirable card because the fundamentals of it being the major league debut patch. So that there is that manufactured scarcity that we talked about. That's why I don't like bounties. But at the same time, I don't mind them because it's giving some kind of relief to somebody who just wants to cash out. And there's an opportunity to still, make money on something that's not worth that. But that's where you have to use your discretion. I think being involved in the hobby, you kind of see things over and over again. You're like, I'm not falling for this one again. Or, you learn from it. And that's where I think having a unique perspective, like, being a part of this hobby, I think there's a lot of, positives to this as if you're already in the space. Yeah.
And speaking specifically again to the MLB debut patch, that's like a true one of one, right? It's not another... It's not a superfractor that they can make more superfractors of, right? So I think it's proven itself out already that the MLB debut patch is a very special card in the baseball card hobby space. Yeah. So, all right. Last question. It's a good segue to it because another highly debatable one, I think. O'Leary says, quote, "These cards aren't inexpensive. They're auctioning for $3 to $6, $7, $8 million. So think of it almost as modern art or contemporary art in a very small format, end quote. So do you think this is a fair comparison? And I think we do agree in terms of some vintage cards being considered art. Like we see that parallel. But my question is, how about modern cards? Even the MJ Kobe 1/1 that just sold to O'Leary and his two investor friends.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we'll see that as modern art?
I think so. I think you can, because at one point vintage cards were modern art. People just didn't see it at the time. Right? If you're in the 60s or 70s and you're like, that 52 tops mantle, man, it's telling you that's modern art. Like, people aren't seeing it. People laugh at you. Right? But then fast forward, would you consider 52 Mantle? Because I'll tell you, Mantle's not even the greatest player of all time.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? It's different. And that's why, even at the fundamental level, as crazy as it sounds, it's like being the best baseball player, or not best, maybe being a very good baseball player might necessarily not correlate to high card prices. Right? And that's the scary thing about buying habits, right? Because, and in a marketplace, it's not whether or not a player is good or not. It's whether or not buying habits agree with that thought. And it's ultimately buyers and sellers what create a marketplace. So it's the habits of, investors or buyers that are dictating the price of everything. So to me, it's like, those are things that, like I said, if you come new into the space, you'd be like, how does that make sense? It's like, it doesn't. Like hobby logic, right? But it could change. It could correct at any point. And that's why I always say, buy, even me as a collectible, I'm looking at, Stadium Club. I'm looking at, Topps Finest, Bowman's Best. I think they're great buys in superstar players, right? Even though they're secondary sets, because going back to Kevin O'Leary does not know that, hey, I could buy raw cards and it could be a great investment. I could buy, 20 raw cards of, let's just say, an X Fractor of some player, and I buy it for $10 each, and I grade them and I get 70%. That's a great investment. Kevin O'Leary is not even talking about that side of the hobby. Right. He's just talking about the highest end of this hobby. And it's like we said, we don't even play in this space. That's not even like considered the hobby. It's kind of insanity, but at the same time, it's not, I guess, because those are habits of people that play at that game. Mm-hmm. Right? And it's the same thing. I'll bring this analogy perfectly. I love cars, for instance, and if you look at kind of like, okay, is it better to buy, let's just say, a Toyota Camry,
right,
over a 911 Turbo? And I will tell you that your ROI will be better on the 911 Turbo.
Right.
But someone will never understand or fathom that, because the buying cost would be way out of the budget. You see what I'm saying? So does that mean it's not true? Right? So that's the exact same thing we're talking about here. Is like, we could never fathom Kevin O'Leary's perspective if you're never playing in that game. Mm-hmm. Because obviously, if it was a stupid investment, he wouldn't invest in it, guys. Right? So how can we say it's stupid or it doesn't make sense? It's like, it only doesn't make sense because our perspective on it. And I think that's a lot of people in the space. They think it's stupid because it doesn't make sense. Yeah,
I'm with you. And maybe that's a great way to end this segment. But I think whether you agree or disagree, or whether you understand or don't understand this latest purchase by O'Leary, I really believe the benefits will be felt by the rest of the hobby. Just by, this can only bring more people into the hobby with the attention that this news made. And I think that's going to continue. I got a question for you, Clark. So you seeing all these sales, does that motivate you not to look for that grail at a really good price and to pull the trigger if
the card was right, if the price was right, if the player was right.
Of course. Yeah.
There you go.
And, I think there's even more opportunities right now, because there's so many other cards that as you do more research, you're like, wow, okay, I it's only 1,000. Okay, I don't know if I should say this because I kind of want this card, but forget Ohtani, because Ohtani is a special case, right? But Juan Soto, okay?
Yeah.
Like, people kind of forgot about Juan Soto, and I think he's going to be a generational talent.
Yeah.
You know, guys, he has 32 home runs, like, quietly.
And it's a bad year.
And it's a bad year. He's batting 251, but I could see him batting 300 next year.
Right.
Right? And his Bowman Best Gold refractor, number to 50, I think is a BGS 9.5. 1,900.
Yeah.
Or best offer. You could probably get it for cheap. I'm seriously thinking of pulling the trigger on that card. You know what I mean?
I love it. And you know what? 5 years ago, you wouldn't have said I would buy Bowman's Best.
No, not at all.
But that's the beauty of it is, there's opportunities everywhere. Even if you miss the hype, there's opportunities where it's, hey, you look at it and you're like, that's a little too low. Right. And then you're like, this is an opportunity. And those are the ebbs and flows of the marketplace. Right. And it's dictated on the buyers, what they deem as value. At what point will you lay down your own money and purchase it? And as long as you have that present, you're always going to do that. And to do a follow-up question, it's like, would you now be more comfortable buying a $50,000 card now versus 5 years ago?
Yeah, of course. The fundamentals are just stronger now than they
exactly.
were 5 years ago.
And it's the Kevin O'Leary. It's the $12.5 million of the Mickey Mantle SGC 9.5 that sold. You see what I'm saying? It's like, that's changing the habits of us. Someone who is not even in the 50,000 to 100,000, let's just say, range in a card, you're like, well, if the right card and the right player was there, you're in that conversation now.
Absolutely. All right. You heard us speak about this latest transaction and our thoughts on O'Leary entering the hobby space. If you guys agree or disagree, we'd love to hear you. You could always DM us at Cards to the Moon or at 5 Cards Guys on Instagram. Okay, let's move on to our next segment. It's Over Under. All right, I think last time we did this, I brought it down to $1,000, but since we're talking high money value, we're not going to go up to 12.9 million because there's very few in that price range. But over under $5,000. Okay,
I like it. That's a good amount.
It's a good number, right? A lot of these cards are trending upwards anyway towards the 5K mark these days because the hobby has been pretty hot. So I was looking at this card. I was very tempted, but sadly I didn't bid for it. Because I want another card, but the 2016 Bowman Chrome, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. His first Bowman, Prospect Auto, Gold Refractor, number to 50, BGS 9.5, 10 Auto, Min Gem, over under 5,000.
So I would say it's over. I think there came a point where Vladdy's prices were so low. And I think the fundamentals of other cards that sold in similar fashion in terms of gold, Bowman, Chrome, I think history shows that golds are one of like the A-chip stock of Bowman Chrome, as well as true orange, true gold. And then I think gold is even as desirable as orange, even though it's double the pop count. I'm going to say over.
$4,651.
Wow, what a deal. I think that's a great buy. I think if I'm a purchaser under $5,000 for Vladdy, I was just saying one of the most underrated players I think is Vladdy. So I think he was so overrated. Now he's underrated. 4,600 compared to whatever a Juan Soto gold sold for. A few years ago, I think is like, what would you sell your Juan Soto for? Let's say that again. Remember that?
The orange, my friend's orange, yeah, 144,000.
There you go, $144,000, and you're telling me a Vladdy gold is at 4,600, and it's not saying that was obviously the peak, but we'll just leave it at that.
Well, I don't know if you heard the last week's episode where Will and Roy were on, and then Will was going off on Vladdy like he's going to be a top 10 player, and Roy was calling him a homer. So he might call you a homer as well. But.
No, I'll tell you what. As great as the Blue Jays are playing, I say it for what it is. I've been saying Vladdy is a great buy because he's a generational hitter, and you're not going to see that type of hitter. And it's for him to prove, though. Obviously, Vladdy has to still keep on playing, but he's a slow starter, and we've known that hurts the market a lot. It dictates the market a lot, just the timing of baseball. And Vladdy started off slow again, and now he's heating up just like he did last year. So his prices are just undervalued in general.
I agree. And that might be homer bias, but I agree. All right. We'll do a couple more baseball. The 2001 Topps Chrome traded Ichiro and Albert Pujols Retrofractor PSA 9.
Ooh, PSA 9. Man, these are tough because I want to say they're over, but I feel like the trend would have probably went down from the hype. But new money is coming in, so I feel like they like that kind of stuff. They like the old school. They're already settled. That's the old way of thinking. So I'm going to say it's over.
4,250 under once again.
So my original thought pattern was right.
Yes. Maybe we're not there yet, but we're trending towards that. Okay. Yeah. All right. 2011 Topps Finest. We're talking about Topps Finest. 2011 Topps Finest Orange Refractor, which is numbered to 99 for some reason, but the Orange Refractor
of Mike Trout.
A rookie card of Mike Trout. BGS 9510 auto.
This is a great looking card too. I think this is a great Mike Trout card, especially the colors, because we went through a point where in 2019, 2018, you didn't see much color of Trout. They were locked away. Yes. The best you would see is like a refractor or even the X-Fractor of that Topps Finest. So an orange, which is out of 99.
Right.
I think Trout market is still down, and I want to say, and there's a trend here. Everything I've been saying is actually the complete opposite. It's kind of like when you go play roulette, you put red, you say I should have just put the other one.
Yes.
So I'm gonna go low here. It's lower than 5,000.
Yes, 3,282.
That's crazy. That's a great buy.
This is why while I was putting this together, I'm like, I wish I had an extra 15,000 I could just spend, like just frivolously on cards, what I mean? But unfortunately, I just finished a basement reno, and I'm looking for smarter plays. But yeah, I love those buys. All right, two more. We're going to switch to football. 2000 Tom Brady Bowman Chrome base rookie auto. Base rookie card. Rookie. Not autograph, of course. BGS 95.
And now it's Bowman Chrome?
Bowman Chrome, yeah. But base, not the refractor.
Peace. See, I don't know the Chrome market too well of this, but I would imagine that at one point, PSA 10s were like 10 grand plus, I would say. So there's both ways here. One, it's like Tom Brady, is very relevant. So, his pricing has always been, premium, but did it go under 5K is the question.
Yeah.
Normally, I would say, I guess, yes, it did go under 5K. So I'm going to say it's under 5K.
Last sale, 5,750.
Oh, wow. See, I'm playing the opposites.
I'm
3 for 4.
When you play opposites, you're 3 for 4.
Yeah, so that's why I always play opposites, because your actual true guess or your red guess is always black. So
you know what? Let's go to casino together. Whatever you say, I'm going to just bet
the opposite. 100%. One of us will win.
All right, last one. You probably have to guess on this because I did as well, but I want to bring this up again because Lamine Yamal, I wanted to, let's recheck in on this market, right? 2023-24 Panini Select Lamine Yamal Gold Prism number to 10, his rookie card.
Is it graded?
Oh, I didn't write that for some reason. It is PSA 9.
PSA 9. I'm gonna say it's over. Gold is in high demand. I think just the Panini brands. It is select, so I don't know that market too well. Select is I would say a lot more less desired, I guess, than Prism Golds. But Select Gold is a pretty massive card, so I'm going to say it's over. And I don't know that market too well, but yeah.
See, if I did the opposite of you, I would have lost money this time. It is over 7,500. So yeah.
So I think anytime you use hobby logic, that's where you'll be right.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. All right, that's our over-under segment for this week. We'll finish off with our regular weekly segment we call Pick One. All right, I'm curious to see where you're going to go this week.
I'm doing a little detour. I'm going to go back to Aaron Judge, I think, next week. Because I still think Aaron Judge is buy. He's so ridiculous. I'm going to say it every week. He's going to hit 500 home runs in 2028. So I think that's a big milestone. And he still has a lot in the tank. So we'll see how much further he goes. But as of right now, he's one of the greatest hitters of all time. And that's a really crazy saying, but his trajectory is there. So we'll get back to Aaron Judge. There's another guy that I think is properly rated, but again, I think there's good buying opportunities. Okay? And that's Bobby Witt Jr. This guy is...
Love him.
How could you not? It's like he's such an impactful player. He's such a guy you want on your team. He's part of the hobby. He loves collecting. He's a great role model. You gotta love the way he plays the game. Kansas City has been a meaningful team in the last couple years, which is crazy because we are saying, well, will Kansas City be kind of like undershadowed? And you look at Ohtani with Anaheim, same thing. It's like, hey, you never know where Bobby Witt will end up. So for me, it's just all the things are right there for him to be a great buy, especially in certain cards. I think certain cards are overpriced. Two cards in the kind of like $600 to $800 budget. I'm gonna say, hey, and they're raw cards. I'll put it out there. So we're not saying it's the cheapest. So there's obviously risk with raw cards, but I also think there's good opportunity. So for $600, would you purchase a 2022 Topps Heritage Real One Auto? And I think this condition is, I would say, it's good condition. Like, I would hope for at least a PSA 9. Yeah, like that's what I would guess. It might not be graded because it wouldn't PSA 10, but who knows? BGS 9.5 potentially. Maybe not. But I'm taking that risk. I've had, great results with raw cards, especially from eBay, grading them. But $600 for a raw card of a Real One Auto.
The blue ink, not the red.
The blue ink, not the red ink. Yeah. The red ink is, like I said, there's overpriced and underpriced card. I think the red ink is overpriced just because of the branding. Maybe it's Shohei's market in general, but we've been shouting that red inks are undervalued way back in the day. Now they're kind of overvalued, but Real One Autos, I think, hey, on-card auto, Topps Heritage, a cheaper set, but history shows that, it sells well with Aaron Judge, Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani. $600, not a bad buy for Bobby Witt Jr., especially I rank him as an A-type player, like Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani type player.
Yeah.
Right? So, $600 for that. Or I'm going to even go in a way down, but underrated card, I think. 2022 Topps Chrome Platinum.
Oh, okay.
Topps Chrome Platinum. People don't even know what Topps Chrome Platinum is. If you know, you know.
Yeah. Yes.
And you love it. If you know Platinum, you love it because it's the big
look of the card is nice.
Look at it. Great. On-card auto. This is an orange refractor out of 25. Okay? Orange refractor out of 25. And I'll send this to you really quick just so you see both cards. But out of 25, that sold for just under $800.
Okay. This is a rookie year, 2022, you said?
This is rookie auto. Both are on-card auto. I sent it. I just sent it to you.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
So $600 to $800. I think, hey, if I have $600, $800, that's not a bad buy.
Right.
Who are you going with?
Ooh, this is a really good one. Because I love heritage, so there's that personal bias, right? But the rarity and the thing with the platinum is, not a lot of people know about the Topps Chrome Platinum set, right? But, like you said, those people that do love it, right? So if I'm trying to see what would be more valuable in the future, and the heritage, the other thing is there is a red ink. There is a scarcer, more limited parallel, essentially, right? With the orange, there's what, red and a super, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There's
only 6 more cards more valuable than the orange.
And but to put it out there, what would be the high level of a real one auto though? Because if Ohtani's red ink is like 10K plus, even a raw, or I don't know, I haven't seen Ohtani's, but I would imagine a real one auto has to be between 5 and 10K of Ohtani.
Yeah.
Somewhere there, maybe even more. I don't know, but like that's where it's like, whoa, is real one autos that desirable now?
I think red ink ones will be always desirable. I just don't know how popular the Topps Chrome Platinum will be.
Right, that's the kicker. But it's out of 25.
It's out of 25,
and it's a little more. So you're paying closer to 800 versus a 600 with not that, I don't know if that matters or not, or if that's a kicker.
Give me the orange. give me the Topps Chrome Platinum. I probably, you ask me tomorrow, I might switch, but right now the scarcity wins out. The number to 25,
right.
And maybe in the back of my mind too, the Topps Heritage cards are notorious for getting PSA 7 or 8s even because of the
that's true.
Because of the back,
paper.
Right? The whitening,
centering.
So, I'd be a little nervous about that. And maybe it's because I do prefer the red ink autos too. Maybe I dish out a bit more if it comes back down in price a little bit. So for all those reasons, I'm going with the orange. I'm taking the risk. Probably grades better.
Interesting. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy because it's like total opposite of what you would have picked probably in the past.
And maybe that goes to what we're talking about. As more people come into the hobby, there's not that overly nostalgic feeling to the heritage card like we have.
Yeah,
right?
and that's my whole point is buying habits change even within us and that's why when you purchase, buying with the scope of value is more important than anything, right? Hey, there's a lot of value here because no one right now is liking this, but I see value in this. And that's why I'm going, same thing. I'm going Topps Chrome Platinum orange out of 25. It's insane. To me, it's like, I think for $700, I would keep that card and see what Bobby Witt does. As opposed to the real one, it would be like, I don't know if I would keep that card. Right? Maybe when the price is right, I would sell it for a profit and then get into something more rare. Whereas the Topps Chrome Platinum, I'm like, whoa, this is a really nice card. Kind of like maybe we'll see what it does in the future because it is an orange. So it's like, think if Ohtani had that card in an orange, what would it be worth today if you bought in for $700? Right? That's the way I see it.
I agree. I like it. It's it reminds me of like Topps Dynasty. You know how we've been on Topps Dynasty? Like, I can't believe these rookie patch autos. And now it's going on.
It's crazy.
People are like, on to Topps Dynasty now. So we should have bought more Topps Dynasty back in the day.
Trust your gut and go with what you think is valuable.
You know what? Let's stock up on Topps Chrome Platinum. I think that's
that's the next play.
That's the next play for us. All right. Okay. This is hypothetical, obviously, my next P1, but it brings everything full circle for this episode. You got $12 million, $13 million. You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
The MJ Kobe. This might be really easy for us, but the MJ Kobe 1 of 1 that just sold, or The Mickey Mantle SGC 9.5, 12.6 million last sold.
All right, this one's easy for me.
Are we both going baseball?
I think we're going baseball. And I think there's a justification. It's a lot. I actually, my answer made it a lot easier. This is a lot harder than what my answer is, because I think the MJ card is like potential crazy, because it is a 1 of 1, and you know it's going to be very desirable. But to me, if you're playing at that price, I want to go trusted and true. Like for me, it's like I know that the PSA 10, there's 3 of them, and I know they're never going to be sold. And if they're sold, it's going to be
50 million,
50 plus,
right?
And it could not even sell under 100. We don't know, right? So for me, that SGC 9.5 is the next best thing.
Yep, that's true.
And there's proof that sold for 12.5. So to me, it's like, if I'm spending that kind of money, I'm gonna go with the holy grail, not the modern piece. The modern piece, I'll probably buy in at a cheaper cost and try to get that type. So I would be in that marketplace if it was a little more modern than the vintage. Let's just say 5 years ago, where it's 2 million and people are like, you're crazy. Whereas, you know, the Mickey Mantle, it's like I'm willing to overpay with it, thinking that it's going to be a lot higher than that. Yeah.
You know, if you want to play devil's advocate, it is a 1 of 1. It is a gold logoman of Kobe. It's both on-card autos for dual.
And it's impossible to get again.
That's another premium. Exactly, right? So all those things you could say make it that valuable, with the potential to increase even more, right?
Auto versus no auto.
Exactly. Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah. So for all those reasons, I wouldn't laugh at someone that chose the MJ Kobe, to tell you the truth.
No. Definitely not. I think both are legit purchases, right? But what would you spend your money on comfortably?
Mickey Mantle, 100%. The history is there, right?
Yeah.
I think that counts for a lot more too, you know? And when I talk about history, kind of what you were saying, there are potential rich, wealthy buyers that are, if it comes onto the market, guess what? It's going to sell, and it's going to sell at a high price. Yeah, I'm not worried about that. Let's just say that, right? So, yeah, Mickey Mantle. But, you know, it's crazy. Both $13 million cards. And I think The Athletic had an article. Maybe we'll talk about it next episode. But they're talking about what cards can sell for more than $13 million. And obviously the PSA 10 Mickey Mantle is up there. But it's a small list.
Yeah.
It's a very small list.
And I think that's going to grow, though, because there are...
Over time, sure.
Yeah, there are underpriced cards, I think, that eventually will catch up. Because you got to remember, at the end of the day, everything's trading against the dollar. So the dollar ain't going up anytime soon, so...
Economics, yeah. All right. We appreciate all our listeners and subscribers, as always. If you have any questions or if you have any ideas for future episodes, we'd love to hear them. Again, at Cards to the Moon or at 5 Card Guys on Instagram or on YouTube. All right, we'll have a brand new episode for you next week. Talk to you then. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5 Card Guys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.